Hello and welcome to Season 3 of Beyond Borders. This is the space where we explore the harder questions, the ones that don't always fit in a headline. Each week we go deeper into the future of creativity, systems, technology and trust. Not just to make sense of where we're going, but to ask, what are we building and who are we becoming as we build it? Hi everyone, I'm Carolyn and I'm here with Pim and Sprenko today as usual, Beyond Borders team. And this is the season finale. Our season has come to an end and it's been a powerful one, I think, guys. We've gone really deep, I think, across a range of topics. And what I wanted to do today is kind of have a chat about all of that in a relaxed way. Sometimes we come away from the recording session and there's more to say or more to feel. So today, I think we're going to slow the pace down a little and do something different. This episode is a more relaxed conversation, a chance for us and the listeners to reflect, to revisit, and maybe rethread some of the themes that have stayed with us. We're not trying to summarize the season, but to sit with it, to ask what landed, what surprised us, what are we still carrying? Do you know what I mean? Pim, Sprenko, are you there?
Yeah,
Are you well?
definitely.
Yeah?
I was doing well. I think many things
Good.
surprised us in the end during last year or during the recordings. I think the biggest surprise for me was that even though people might have thought that AI will slow down, it didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I agree. Absolutely. It is moving at a pace. And I think it was one of the things that came out in conversation with that episode that you led, and I feel that every day, to be honest. And I think many people are missing how fast it is moving. We're caught up in it, a bit like we were and are with social media. It's happening to us, not with us. Sprinkle makes sense to you?
Absolutely. I'm glad we're having this finale this way because, I was just mentioning to Pim that even the days are moving super fast. So I can imagine how fast the tech, and AI and all of that is moving. I just hope that everything moves in the right direction at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I have concerns, and I've shared them with both of you. We've got the big tech companies, social media companies in court this week. Talking about the way the algorithms have damaged, for want of a better word, young people, and all of
Hmm.
us. I guess it's not just young people, and yet we've got the conversations going on about AI. Where are we heading with that? What damage is being done there? What concerns should we have as humans in that human AI loop? It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And also going back to how fast AI developed is probably also with all these extra rules and regulations that probably need to come in. All those systems are rushed to compete with each other, and therefore algorithms actually might do more damage on the mental health side for the users than the benefits. That's gonna be a big reason for why the social media businesses are currently in court, and they need to represent their plans and probably say what they did wrong, what they did good, what they need to improve. But the question is if they want to maintain their overall market share, will they actually change or will they keep rushing the algorithms in their benefit? That's going to be the question.
Oh, I know what my instinct is on that one. We'll keep going in the direction that we're going because that is what we've always done. They're just it's frustrating because I think they're just fitting a model, on top of something that is new. And it is new. AI is completely different. It is it's made from us. Social media is a product. It's something that we use. It is a tool, I guess, if you like to call it that. But AI is something different. So the normal rules of engagement don't apply, but they are being applied. And that's where the danger lies, I think.
Yes, go ahead, Franco.
No, I was just gonna say it's interesting how both of you, who I would, consider to be more pro AI than I am, you know, still have this sense of caution, this
Mm, yeah.
inner feeling, gut feeling, so to put it, that something's not, doesn't sit right. I was looking through the update that's been trending the past few days on X about the open sourcing of the algorithm and whatnot. And when I look through it, everything just looks pretty much the same. But,
Mm,
for me, what sticks out is why do these products, these tools that are being created, why are they being created? What is the end goal? Is it simply to make life easy for us? Or there's something behind the scenes, like, dumbing down people, you know, curating people to be less productive or just doom scrolling social media? For example, what is the point of social media for us? So those are the things that
mm.
really, come up to mind, especially, reflecting conversations like, the place of AI in creativity. That really bothers me because I know we really, went extensively in the episode where we covered it, but I think we we need to ask really heavy questions as we move forward, especially as the tech keeps improving. Or what do you think?
Yeah, you're right, Sprinko. Sorry, Pim. I just wanted to add in there. I think you're absolutely right. But you know what, Sprinko, we need to do more than talk. Us
Mm,
talking achieves nothing. And I mean that with the greatest of respect. And I know what you're saying. But
mhm,
talking, there is enough of us talking, no one's listening, and that's the problem.
mm,
How do we, as the individuals paying, as the ones who actually should be holding all of the cards here, make
mm,
a difference, make ourselves heard, make them understand what it is that we want that they are missing. It is absolutely an extractive model currently, and most of the extraction comes from us, and that's for sure. But go on, Pim, I interrupted you.
Yeah, but also, no, in what you just said, what can we do?
Mm,
For the
mm,
social media businesses, just looking back at their origin, the first social media platforms was really for the people where they can see their friends, what do are their friends doing? You can simply
yeah.
just put text and pictures on there. And when you look to the development now on definitely on Instagram, you need to have video content because people are just doom scrolling the reels, same for TikTok. And I think businesses at some point realized there is a big chance or say opportunity with social media. And the moment that came, the social media businesses understood very well, okay, we're gonna improve our algorithms so the ads that people spend, the businesses spend the money on are more accurate, and therefore they will keep spending. And that eventually Instagram is a sort of a marketplace, but then for the businesses where the consumer is like the market, where they need to make sure the consumer buys their product. It was not, I'm not sure if it was intended that way, but that is how it currently is. The amounts
Mm,
of advertising you see when I'm also sometimes do scrolling through Instagram, and then out of the 10 posts, I think I see four advertisements.
yeah.
Now I have to say I also use Instagram for specific search for competitors, my own solutions. So there might be a reason why it shows me more advertising because I'm always also more the person who clicks on it out of curiosity, buying not so much, but still. And then if you want to regulate that, who is going to regulate? In Europe, the regulation probably will come sooner than later. The question is, what kind of regulation? I'm very concerned. I think they will regulate more on the development side for overall AI businesses, no, not necessarily social media, and and also for taxation and that kind of stuff, because that's a
Mm,
big worry within startup founders, big businesses that Europe is getting behind because of regulations and also less funding. But There are multiple reasons. So I'm very curious about that and how that will develop. But it will be a good thing if this week, within court, social media kept more guidelines or forced guidelines when it comes to definitely the younger generations.
But you know what? When we think about these things, I think part of it is business, and when you're sitting in a boardroom listening to the drivers behind big business or even small business, it's all about metric and profit. And I get that. Of course I do. I work with people and I've worked with organizations. I know how that all works. But I think we're missing something. We're missing connecting with the people. So instead of focusing on the numbers with without thinking about the people who are using our products, we need to think about the people in that mix. And that kind of reminds me of the episode that we did about the power of kindness, how quiet acts lead to lasting impact. And I'm not naive and I'm not, looking at this as a utopian dream. But surely if an organization can connect more with the people who are using its tools, its products, its AI, that is going to be more beneficial to that company's bottom line over time than purely extraction with no trust, with no underpinning in terms of, what the customer wants, you know? And for me, that the way we currently are and this drive for growth at all costs, irrespective of the people, it doesn't fit us anymore. It's not comfortable for us. And many of us feel that. Makes sense, Sprinkle?
Yes, it does. And I love that you brought that up because like we mostly know there's very little empathy in conversations like that. It's simply about I put this in, this is an investment, business as
Exactly.
usual, right? And of course, we live in a world that is run by money. So I'm not gonna sit here and act like nobody's supposed to make money from whatever product or tech you're trying to put into the world, right? Of course, you make your money, but money aside, first things first, we need to understand that as much as we have the right to create systems, put systems in place, create products and sell things to people, whether it's to make money or not, we need to also understand that we have freedom to do those things, but must have in mind that we shouldn't create those systems in place or tools or whatever and put things in place that restrict the end user or sort of make it look like they have no choice
Mm.
than to use those systems or to key into those systems and products the way they have been patterned to function, you know, negatively. Because, for example, we talked about, in one of the episodes, the power of choice in living a fulfilling life. And
Yeah.
I'm bringing this up because it ties closely with, the power of kindness, and, the place of AI in our creativity.
Mm.
If whoever is building whatever has in mind how that would positively impact the next person, you're applying not only what place that holds in that person's life, right? But you're also putting yourself in that person's shoes. So you're not just seeing it another investment or as another business entity or another means to become the next billionaire, top billionaire in the world. But you're creating solutions for people because you want people to improve. You want people to be better. So I think at the end of the day, as end users, knowing fully well that most of the things that we will get to use in this world while we are here are not going to be created by us, apart from our time and how we choose to spend it, right? We're going to
Mm.
be using other people's products, other people's systems. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and make another social media that's going to take over Instagram, right? So we need to, as end users, hold closely the power of choosing how we want to curate our lives. Because truthfully, the difference between people who seem or appear to be living peaceful lives, regardless of what goes on in the world, it's not because they have everything under control. They just have a better understanding of how the world works and they choose how to curate how they spend their time here. So I think as much as we're complaining and looking for what to do, as you said, talk is not going to make the difference, right? We as end users need to make conscious decisions. That's where I currently sit at the moment, conscious decisions, how to utilize these systems, how to use the product that we're being fed, to how do we show up on X? What are we doing on Instagram? Pim said something earlier, before I pass, the mic over to him, about using Instagram and sharing pictures with loved ones. And sometimes, honestly, and not to sound, like the conspiracy theories that I'm often called, is was it really to connect deeper or to just harvest data and information and better understand how to control the rest of us? That's a conversation for another day, you know. But, I think we really have, the next best time to really reflect and really make any actionable choices, decisions that we can. Otherwise, it may just be too late for us.
Yeah, I hope it isn't. And I for one keep banging the drum in my quiet corner with nobody watching
Hmm.
and hope for the best. What about you, Pim? What's your thoughts?
Well, I think what Franco said is all those business develops being better for the person who use it. I think there is a big part that starts with that. Just looking at AI, we are more in the creative atmospheres. So looking at, for example, video creation with AI, the first instructions that or first things you hear during the meeting is we reduce the time you work on your projects, we reduce the
Hmm.
cost. Those are all benefits, and with that you of course have to fill in. I think we also talked about this before. You can reduce your time, and you probably still work the same 40 hours a week. You just get
Hmm.
the more done.
Yeah.
So the idea why they start a business and trying to sell it to the business is good. And then always is the question, and I also very understand this, they need to make money, they need to make profits.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, employees with the now inflation is a little bit better, but the inflation rates have increased salaries by big margins. Those have to be paid. You as a business owner, you want to get paid. You also want to get
Mm-hmm.
paid more because you're spending probably more than 40 hours a week on the business.
Of course.
So you want to make sure that eventually you'll have the budget to do the things you like to do and maybe even get more rest, even though most business owners probably don't do it because they have their own business. It's their own little child. Then the question is, what are, let's say, the main reasons things change? And we also talked about this earlier in one of the episodes. The moment investors come in, you get a lot of KPIs you need to reach.
Mm.
Yeah.
That will force you into being more aimed toward the consumer. You need to sell more, you need to bring more, you
Hmm.
need to change your processes, you need to change your overall marketing business structure that it's get the most efficient way to get the customer to your platform.
Yeah.
Does it help with, let's say, morals within business? Probably not, because you're just chasing so many, let's say, fish in large waters where there are plenty of fish, but you want them all. So
Right.
I think that definitely when you get bigger, it gets harder and harder to keep the morals in check. Definitely when the competition isn't doing it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a conundrum. Sorry, Spanko, go on.
yeah. What comes up for me there as you speak, Kim, is it seems as if, and I think we see it pretty now and then, we just choose to ignore it, you know. Um, but I think largely, maybe a lot of founders, a lot of ideas, a lot of business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of organizations, corporations even start out good. But the moment money leads the conversation, it's like ethics are thrown out the window, and we forget that we are one species, not,
Mm.
master and slave, not, you know, creator and user. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
the conversation to be having, ethics and money and wealth, or are we derailing further, you know, away
Do you, do you know what it's making me think about? Let's think about social media for the minute,
from?
right? Park AI for a second. So, what Pim said and what you've just said, social media companies, once they realized the amazing capacity that they had with their algorithms and with their tech to understand us,
Mm,
therefore control us, therefore hook us in, right?
mm-hmm.
That led to a state of what I can only kind of describe as chronic acceleration. And I use those words to describe it because they ignored us. It's absolutely that, there's like a madness surrounding it.
Mm,
Racing competitors, and we're seeing it now with AI, like Pim said, responding to investors, shipping faster than they can integrate what they've already built. And that's the same with AI. The same is happening. And so when a system is designed from inside that state, it is naturally going to assume that we are all the same. We assume a level of capacity maybe that we don't have, constant availability, endless adaptability from us as users. And we've seen this play out in social media. And
right.
and it kind of isn't malice, I don't think. It's projection. It's more
Mm,
they're not thinking. They're caught up in this scale, scale, scale at all costs. And they
yeah,
forget the human in the loop.
right.
So for me, though, and I go back to what I said earlier, a system that erodes coherence with the people who are buying its product or its service doesn't just harm the people, it
Mm-hmm.
produces brittle adoption, shallow engagement, and long term trust decay. And I believe we are seeing that play out with social media. The kind of conversations we've had both on, season one, season two, and now season three, and that we talk about a lot within X Spaces is all about trust. You particularly, Sprenko, have a background of mistrust in these things, and I get it. And I have to admit, when we were having these conversations, firstly, 2 years ago, I kind of didn't get it, but now I get it. I really do get it. And it's
Mm,
there for us all to see. So for me, it's bad business because eventually they are going to reach a point where they have to deal with the court cases, where they have to deal with long term trust issues. But you know what? As I'm saying that, I'm thinking, well, maybe they don't care because the people, will have filled their bags and gone and they don't care. And
exactly.
yeah, they'd have got their, they don't care what they're leaving behind, which takes me full circle back to we have to make them, don't we? By what we're doing, by what we're saying, and by the choices we are making. So right back to what you said, Sprenko, about the episode we did about the power of choice in living a fulfilling life. It really does
Right.
come back to that, doesn't it?
It does. And I have a question for you both, Caroline and Pim.
Mm.
Um, oftentimes we for lack of a better term, point fingers. Oh, the devs, oh, the corporations, oh, the chairmen and the CEOs and and the Elons and the likes, right? Yeah, I'm not gonna take away from them, right? They have their faults. But what about us though? In the grand scheme of things, it's like with mental health, no amount of therapy would ever work to heal someone who's depressed, who's struggling with acute depression, if they're not willing to first even accept that they're struggling and then be willing to embrace help. So, what if the ultimate problem that we face amongst everything we've listed, Pim has listed, people have to make money. Sometimes people have good conscience and go in, with the intention to help people, but investors come in there, VCs here and there, and KPIs have to be met. Yeah, but how about us, the end user? Do we really want change, or we just accustomed to clamoring for change? But when it boils down to actually making the moves, choosing to start up or be part of that chain reaction that consequently affects change, are we actually ready? Or are we just comfortable shying away from the conversation as long as the finger that is being pointed is not at us? You know? Pim,
I
thoughts?
think, yeah, but are we ready? I think the answer is no. And I think it will only get worse if nothing changes. Just
Oh
because
God.
people are searching for more luxury, more freedom, uh,
Mm,
all those things. Where do you find those with the eye, so not experience those, but where do you find them? Which is on
mm,
social media.
right.
Where are the solutions? Probably finding more ways of income so you can have more luxuries. In general, that's also more found nowadays on
On
social
social media,
media.
exactly.
So there are so many things that rely on social media nowadays that even the solutions where people are searching for
Mm,
is on social media, which makes it so difficult to say, okay, I'm gonna cut out social media. I'm gonna stop doom scrolling, which is the easier part. Uh,
mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna live a more luxurious life with more freedom, less work, etc. Well, if you start your own business, you need something of marketing, or you just do cold calls, which yeah, you have to be good at and have fun doing. I personally don't. Um, but otherwise, how are you going to promote your business? So that's already off the table. Then for your
Mm,
work, you want more freedom, so you need to be more efficient. But your boss requires you to say, I want you in the office from 9 to 5, from Monday to Friday. So
mm-hmm.
being more efficient, yeah, you can do it for promotions, and eventually you get more time off, or you have more
Right.
credits to say on Fridays I work from home.
Mm-hmm.
But that those in general take time. People don't, well, they have the time, but they don't want to spend the waiting time for that freedom.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I notice with my friends and surroundings. People really want everything very fast. Well,
Yes.
in that case, building a business is again off the table because it takes a lot of time. Same for promotion, same for getting more free time from work. You have to showcase your efficiency in a certain way, in which for many is going to be very difficult because the boss will like it, but then the boss will see it as a, okay, you are up for promotion within a certain time, but in the meantime, I will want you to have the same hours. I might find different projects for you to do in the same time so you get more things done by the way you're working, but it will not result in more freedom for you. So will we soon change? I don't think so. I'm also curious what Caroline thinks.
I think that some people are oblivious. They're just oblivious. If you had a conversation about the things that we're discussing today and have discussed over the 3 seasons, they just can't connect with it. They don't see it. They don't feel it. Okay. And then I think there are people that want change, but because of the way the world is now, and getting even more so because of AI, they're suffering with overwhelm. So they can't disengage, they can't step back and become, choice driven. They're instinct driven, habit driven, and so remain in this state of overwhelm where they can't think clearly, they can't choose clearly and make healthy choices for themselves, in their lives. But I think, you're right, Pim. Most people want peace. for themselves, people like us, everyday people, there are certain things that we want that we feel would make us happy. But what I know is that in the world, there is a silent majority. And I say that again, a silent majority of people. And then there's a loud minority. And what happens? The balance shifts for some reason. And maybe you could even say that that's what we're seeing play out now in the US. And I don't want to get political, but I'm going to put that out there. Is that the loud minority is taking over, taking shape, shaping the culture of a country. So, what the silent majority have to realize is that if their peace is to be maintained, they have to find their voice. They have to engage. They have to be present. They have to show up. But sadly, they don't until it's too late, and then it's a case of, well, what can I do now? As a bit of powerlessness comes into it. And that's kind of where we are, I think. Make sense?
What? Yeah, but why do you think though? Why do you think we wait until, it's beyond the tipping point? It's like, with what's happening, across parts of Africa, like the
Yeah.
citizens are complaining, oh, governments are bad. We don't want this president. We don't want that. We don't have power. We don't have this. But, and there's tweets, there's posts, there's videos, we can clearly see that's right. But if you go in real life, right, in real time to those places, I can guarantee you that if you even have the means and the plan to liberate those people, amongst them, there will still be betrayal and people willing to ensure that those shitty conditions remain just because a select few benefit from shit not working. So what do you think keeps us as human beings, not Africans, Asians, or Americans, what do you think keeps us stuck? Knowing what we need to
That's a good
knowing
question.
what
Go on, go on, go
still
on.
keeps us there. And it's an interesting one for me, especially from the mental health perspective. But I'm just curious what you both think. Caroline, I'm pretty sure you're excited to go in on that one.
It's a brilliant question, and I don't have an answer really, other than to say, what I have seen over the years is that risk risk is difficult, isn't it? When something is happening that is big, and you as a person have to take action, 9 times out of 10 you will look around you and start, looking for people who share your views or will stand with
Yeah.
and I've
Yeah.
been, without sharing too much personal stuff here, I have been in a situation in life where that has been the case, in a work situation. And it can be
Mhm.
incredibly isolating because, again, that the loud minority dominate because by their nature they are loud. And so risk is very
Mhm.
personal, whereas benefit can feel abstract when you've never known anything but. There's comfort in moaning about it because
Mhm.
we share that, we share it.
Right.
But do we share the impetus to act if we truly believe that nothing will change? And I think that the way things are playing out, think about it at the minute, on the global stage, never mind in our own backyards, but on the global stage, what is happening? And how do any of us really feel any power when we see leaders being powerless?
Mm.
So it's incredibly difficult. And I think that there's a number of bits of the jigsaw have to stack up to enable people to come forward, to stand up, to take
Yeah.
risk personally for change. You know what I mean? I'm
Mm.
interested to see what Pim says.
Yeah, what do we require? I think if there is no stability, nothing will change. Just because definitely in regards to the world leaders, I think people nowadays, no matter what type of leader it is, people are quite tired of all of them. So therefore, they are searching things that are put away a focus of the geopolitical happenings
Mm.
that will, as a side effect, that having changes will take more time because that's the things that we discussed today will probably be also in law and legislations uh, when we don't make those. Me as a
Yeah.
business owner, I do not make the regulations. I have to work with them and then
Mm.
try to do it as smoothly as possible. All businesses do. Then how can we change?
Yeah.
I think the only thing people can do is change things for themselves. If they quit with the doom scrolling, I think that's already a good thing. Then eventually, if everybody does it, then ads will change,
Yeah.
social media will change. Does that happen? In all seriousness, I don't think so. And I have no idea how we could. If others have them, I'm happy to hear them because I really like the discussion. But for now, I have no idea.
Yeah, maybe we talk about that some
Yeah,
more
no,
in season 4, do you think?
absolutely. And honestly, there's no requirement to provide an active answer because even
No.
me, you spot on with that, Carolyn. Where risk is involved, people would naturally, as human beings, this species of ours, interesting one, we would rather look for the slightest benefit for ourselves
Yeah,
than embrace risk.
exactly.
No, would definitely give us guarantee.
Pim, Sprenko, I think that's a perfect end to our season finale. Thank you both so much. I really have enjoyed season 3. Thank you for being with us as listeners through the questions, the laughter, the reflection, and the depth. This season reminded us that presence matters, that connection is power, and that conversation still has the ability to change something in us and around us. We'll be back soon, but until then, stay kind, stay curious, and keep going beyond the borders.